In these problems, we are being asked to order rational numbers. So these numbers, fractions, and decimals, and so forth, put them in order, smallest to biggest, biggest to smallest, show which one's greater, which one's less. So with decimals, this shouldn't be too difficult. In this first problem, it says arrange in order of decreasing magnitude and write using the greater than sign. So we want to put the biggest one first, say it's greater than the next biggest one, and say that's greater than the smallest one. Um, Sometimes it can be confusing when you see a lot of decimals like this. I find it easiest to just line them up vertically here. So I'm going to do that because then you can compare the places, which is really what we want to look at. And 9.01. So if you want to find out which number is biggest or smallest, you start with the first digit on the left here. They're all nines, so these are the same that way. Then you move one digit over. Those are all zeros, so that's the same. And then you move one digit over, and this one's a zero, and these two are ones. So this one is our smallest. Okay, so we know which one's the smallest. Now, how about these two? If you move one digit over, there's a 3 here and nothing there. So how do you compare it? Well, a nothing is just like a 0. So a 3 is definitely bigger than a 0. So this one is the biggest. And of course, the remaining one there on the bottom would go in the middle. So to answer this question, we would go 9.013 is greater than 9.01, which is greater than 9.001. Okay, let's try another one. This one has fractions, and fractions can be tricky. It's hard to see sometimes, whether something like 23 thirds is really bigger than 13 fourths. The secret is you can always use a calculator here. First of all, 16 fourths, that's 16 divided by 4, that's just 4. So that one's pretty easy to figure out. But these others, why not pull out a calculator here? I guess actually 24 divided by 2, that's 12. But let's calculate the other ones here. 13 fourths is 13 divided by 4. So that's 3.25. And then 23 divided by 2. And that is 11.5. And now that we've got them arranged this way, it's pretty easy to put them in order. It says least to greatest. Oh, and it's just asking which will be first if you put them least to greatest. So we want to find the smallest one, and that's this. That's the 3.25. So the answer would be 13 fourths on this one. Right, let's try one more. This one says insert equals, less than, or greater than to make a true statement. And we have negative 1/7 being compared to negative 1/3. Well, I know those aren't the same. It gets a little confusing with the negative signs, and then with the fractions, you might not have a great grasp of which is bigger or smaller there. So to be on the safe side, let's convert these to a decimal. I think that's a good practice with these if you're not sure. So 1/3, 1 divided by 3, that's 0.3 repeating. Okay, so 0.3 repeating. And 1/7, so that's 1 divided by 7. That is 0.142857, and then that repeats. Let's just shorten that to 0.14. To compare these, I don't think we need to go any further than that. So 0.14. And actually, these are both negative. So when I look at these now, the first thing I see is that 0.14 seems to be smaller than 0.3, but these are negative numbers. So you have to think about this on the number line. Things kind of get turned around when you're dealing with negatives. So if here's 0, negative 0.14 would be closer to 0 than negative 0.3. And eventually we'd get to negative 1 here, and then negative 2, and so forth as we go on down. And when we ask which thing is greater than the other thing, what we look at is how great they get going this direction and how small they get going this direction. So things that are to the left are less than, and things that are to the right are greater than. So here is our -1/7. That was we shortened that to the 0.14. That's to the right of the -0.3 repeating. So that's actually greater than. So the pattern you should be thinking about here is that a smaller negative number is greater than a bigger negative number. Hope that's not too confusing. That's a little bit of work with ordering rational numbers.